Hello YouTube. In this video I'm going to talk about teleportation, time travel, consciousness, is teleportation possible, and these kinds of topics. Maybe some tidbits of extraterrestrial knowledge and these kinds of things. Is teleportation possible? Let's find out. I think that teleportation is some way of traveling when we go from another place to another place in an instant that doesn't take any time. Teleportation is not time bound. Every way of traveling we humans have invented has been time bound, and in a certain way every kind of traveling method we humans have invented is the same way of traveling. There's no real difference between going with a bicycle or walking and going with cars or trains or spaceships or anything, because it happens in time. So to teleport we have to negate or remove time from the equation. Is this possible? Well, if you have studied UFOs or extraterrestrials or these kinds of things, you know that there's witnesses who have seen spaceships that appear and disappear in an instant, and they have speculated that these are multidimensional beings, and that would mean that there are other universes. But I'm not so sure if these are multidimensional beings. I'm pretty sure there are intelligences and beings or intelligences without bodies that have cracked reality and the structure of reality so deep that they understand how to move between places in an instant. But I don't think these are multidimensional beings, and that's just the reason. Because in quantum entanglement we have found that particles can affect each other from a distance that is grand distance, and they can affect each other in an instant. And what does this mean? Well, I think that this might mean that in a reality there are certain kinds of patterns. If reality is infinite, it can be infinite in a sense that everything is different. Like it goes and goes and goes, but everything on the way is different. Or it can be a pattern that goes to the infinity. The pattern might be so large that you would never arrive at something that looks like exactly the thing you are looking at. So is reality cloning itself? If it's cloning itself, is it cloning itself in time or outside of time? I have never heard anyone pose a question like this. But if we want to understand teleportation, we have to understand consciousness. And consciousness is something you are looking the reality from. And your consciousness is bound to your body. And some people think that the body creates the consciousness, and the consciousness looks at the reality, and reality happens without consciousness. And then there's the other way of looking at it, that consciousness is not bound to the body, and all of reality is consciousness, and the body is kind of like something that constricts the consciousness from expanding and expanding. So the body is like saying to the consciousness, you are not the universe, 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 you are not the universe. And the consciousness tries to explain, no, I'm the universe. And if I'm the universe, what makes it so that I cannot manifest myself in a completely different terrain in some other planet now? Why is it so? Because teleportation would require, firstly, that we could disbound or dismantle the body, or negate it from the equation, like I said in the beginning. And the body would have to be left behind in a state where we could transport only the senses, maybe. And the senses are also bound to the body. So we would have to move the whole body. So if we have to move the whole body, we have to like take into the equation all the terrains or elements in the universe, and that's not possible. But what is consciousness really? Does it require the senses? What are the five senses? And can there be colors, forms, beings, and everything else without the senses? If there can be reality without the brain, how could we perceive reality without our body? This is where these two theories like collide. Well, in teleportation we would have to take a destination. We would have to have something in mind. So would we have to have something in memory? Because memory, if you think about memory, you can only remember the places you have been to. You can imagine places that you haven't been to, and these imaginations happen when you cross two memories or three memories or more, and you add them up. But that's not really remembering. So you would have to have a destination in mind. So you would have to have been there. That's the first stage of teleportation. You have to know your destination. Then there's the other stage. You have to go there. How do you go there? Through will or something? Because if you want to teleport in the universe, you have to understand constriction and expansion. Because if you think about it, if you are the whole universe, then when you travel, you have to first be the whole universe, then constrict, then you have to be the whole universe again, and then constrict again. Like if I want to go from here to like some other planet, I have to expand and be the whole thing. Then I have to constrict in a certain like trajectory. And how can I expand fully and then take a certain trajectory? That would also mean that I need a place of like focusing from. So it's really hard to understand fully what is like what if this is what is called God, then how God perceives anything. It's really hard to understand because God can't have trajectory, and teleportation and having a trajectory or a direction is really important to like understand. So do we need a technology that does this to the consciousness? Or can we manipulate consciousness in any way? Can we remove it from the body? Well, there are those certain experiences that are called near-death experiences, where people talk about being in a surgical room or something and seeing the thing from like a different point of view or something, and hearing all the speaking that goes on in the surgical room or something. But does this mean that there is a certain kind of body or another body that is not bound to the body but can like disengage from the body and travel? Is this body able to travel instantaneously? If so, is it teleportation? And if it's not teleportation, then how fast can it go? If it's called the light body, can it go at the speed of light? Is that the upper limit? Some people call it the light body, and I have witnessed the light body, and I can say that the light body is immortal. It cannot die, it cannot be in any way mutilated, or nothing can happen to the light body. It's completely immortal, and it can go anywhere, but it can also fully achieve observation with God and become God. It's like a doorway, and the physical body is like a doorway that is closer to darkness, and the light body is a doorway that is much closer to light. So we can think about darkness and light. Is darkness something where light hasn't yet like been traveled to? Or is darkness something that just is a fact, or something that light cannot never travel there? And how we travel from darkness to light, or from light to darkness, or do these things even exist? If we have darkness, does it mean that the speed of the universe is too high and light cannot happen? Or does it mean that light hasn't yet traveled from the source to the place where there is darkness? Omnipresence would require that these kinds of theories would be impossible. Omnipresence would mean that the light was everywhere, like that it really was the only thing, and that would be God. But how could there be anything else? And I think these are the like seeds or the first steps that some other species somewhere in the universe far away have found out, and they have cracked these mysteries, and they are appearing in the sky. And some people have seen their ships in the sky and seen how they appear and disappear, like teleportation. But they are not from another dimension. They are from this dimension. This dimension is like, if this, like, you have to understand what is dimension. Dimension would require that something is not omnipresent, and there would have to be a wall, or would have to be another place, another frequency maybe. This is possible, that there are frequencies in the universe, or in the like experiential reality that we cannot like receive, and these beings somehow alter their frequency so that they become visible, and then we see them, and then they alter their frequency again and they become invisible. They go back to their own world. Maybe it's like this. Maybe reality. This is what I thought really hard about when I was starting my journey, is that maybe reality is like layered, and different frequencies have the same elements, but they appear differently. Like for example, like my body in a different frequency is completely different, but has exactly the same structure. And if we go back to the theory about the patterns, where we would have a certain structure that would repeat in a pattern in an infinite way, then that would explain something about what that something could manifest itself into. If you know about reptilians and these kinds of things, then you can think about, are reptilians really human beings in a different frequency? And is that frequency lower or higher than us? And are angels and these kinds of beings, are they same as human beings, but are they in a frequency that is higher? I think it's like this. There are like beings, but there are many types of beings inside or layered in the same being. So for example, in me there would be a higher frequency and there would be a lower frequency, and I only see reality from my frequency, but to certain kinds of chemicals and practices you could witness reality from, and the planet from different frequency. Like example, think about what the planet would look like from a reptilian point of view, from reptilian frequency. What would this everything, what would the planet look like? Or from an angelic point of view. I think this is the more possible explanation. And what would happen to time if we go above in frequency? These are more questions that I want to give to this topic, but this is all I can explain in this video. This video about teleportation. I believe that teleportation is possible, but I believe also that teleportation is a more like psychic phenomena that we could potentially induce with technology. But it's not a phenomena where we could transport the whole body. We have to learn through neurology and study of consciousness that what are the senses and how do they work? What is reality, and can we really say that there are sounds and sights and smells and all these kinds of things? Like study synesthesia, and you will learn that these are not so carved in stone, these experiences we are having. They can overlap, and in a certain sense everything leads to everything else. So it's like a matrix or a web reality, but at the same time it's not, because you have to think about omnipresence. What is omnipresence? So that was this video. I'm going to film more videos in English in the future, because I have found out that speaking in my native tongue doesn't really get to much people. But if you want to find out more of my English videos, I have a playlist on my channel called In English, and I'm going to update that playlist in the future much more. So I'm going to talk about these kinds of topics, things that relate to religion, spirituality, maybe science, some bits of science, art, culture, all kinds of topics. I'm interested in all kinds of things. So, thank you all for watching.